Hi, friends. So, we're going to continue on with summarizing with fiction. Now, we spent the last 2 days using those keywords, if you remember, somebody, wanted, but so then, to help guide us on how to go about making a quick summary, but a thorough summary, including those important details that you need. Now, today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what makes a good summary. Okay, and there's 5 key points here that I wanted to point out to you of what makes a good summary. So, one of the things that we're going to talk about is that a summary only has the information from the reading passage itself. We're not adding any additional information, which we're going to get to shortly. Now, also, the summary is going to explain what the author or character thinks. We're not going to include our opinion. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow. Now, also, a summary includes only the most important ideas. Enough details to tell the important ideas, but not too many unimportant ideas. This we've sort of already discussed, and that's where those 5 key words help us pull out just the important ones. The somebody wanted, but so then. And then the fiction summary, obviously, we've already talked about. It needs to include that problem. Remember that statement when you get to but, and then how they go about solving it. And of course, we know a summary can't simply be copied, it needs to be in our own words. So let's go to our first point today. Today, we're going to focus on a good summary does not include additional information. Now, what you're going to have in front of you is I've pulled out a reading selection, and if you're following along with me, you're on page 11 of your reading packet. So if you don't have your reading packet and you want to go grab it, go get it for me now. Okay? Now, in this packet, we're going to read a little story, and it may sound pretty familiar to you. In that story, though, we're going to play a little activity together before I tell you what you're going to do on your own about what details I need and which details I do not need to include. All right, are you ready? Let's go. All right, so again, like I said, this is page 11 of your reading packet. Now, you're going to notice here that the title has been left off of my selection because in your Google form, you're actually going to need to create a title of your own. So that kind of goes back to last week's skill on, well, your title's your topic. What is this story mostly about? And that needs to be reflected in your title. Well, first of all, I need to figure out what this story actually is about. So you can follow along with me as I read it to you. Here we go. Granny was so excited. Her granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood, had called her earlier that morning. Little Red Riding Hood was coming to visit Granny, and she was going to bring a basket of chocolate chip cookies. To prepare for the visit, Granny put on her favorite apron and bonnet, and then she began to clean her house. As she was washing the dishes, Granny heard a knock at the front door. Granny opened the door expecting to see Little Red Riding Hood. Instead, she saw a wolf with terrifying front teeth. The wolf laughed as he walked into the house and shut the door behind him. Yum, the wolf said. Granny, you look delicious. Well, the wolf was about to gobble Granny up when there was another knock on the door. The wolf grabbed Granny's apron and bonnet and then shoved her in a closet. You better be quiet, Granny, or I'll eat your granddaughter too. Then the wolf locked the closet door. From the closet, Granny couldn't hear what was going on very well. She thought she heard Little Red Riding Hood commenting on the wolf's big eyes and ears, but she couldn't hear the wolf's reply. And then Granny heard Little Red Riding Hood scream, followed by a lot of stomping feet. Oh no, Granny thought. What if the wolf eats my granddaughter? I've got to stop him. She started banging on the door. The closet door opened, and Granny saw Little Red Riding Hood standing with a young man holding an axe. Don't worry, Granny, Little Red Riding Hood said. We scared off that wolf. He won't ever come back. The three of them happily sat down for a nice snack, eating the cookies Little Red Riding Hood had brought over. The wolf never returned to Granny's house. All right, before we get started, remember the 5 keywords, somebody. What's our somebody? Okay, so we have Granny and Little Red Riding Hood, right? Okay, and what were the character wanting to do? Granny was wanting Little Red Riding Hood to come over, right, and visit her. Oh, but what happens? The wolf shows up at Granny's house, right? So what do? Remember, he pushes her into the closet. Luckily, though, we have the man who comes by the axe, right? And is able to, between Little Red Riding Hood and the young man holding the axe, were able to scare off the wolf. And so the three of them happily sat down for a nice snack. Now, remember those key details. Those were the important ones we pulled out because now, dun, 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 we're going to do a little sorting game. Now, remember, you are only to include the actual details here that were in the summary or that were in the selection. We're not going to include anything that may be additional information. There's a lot of versions of the Little Red Riding Hood. Make sure you're following the one that we just read. Now, again, you're going to notice this is actually in page 2. So if you maybe want to, you can't really cut it out, but if you want to number your tiles and put the numbers on each column, you can do that. Or simply just follow along with me. Now, Little Red Riding Hood, does she stop to pick flowers on her way to Granny's house? In our story? I've heard a version of where she stops to pick flowers, but was that included in this one? No. So that does not need to be included in our summary. This is additional information. We did not read this in our version of Little Red Riding Hood. Next, Little Red Riding Hood and a young man with an axe scare the wolf off. Did that happen in our summary? Yes, it did. So we're going to put that as a detail that we need to include. Now, right here, the wolf gobbled up Granny. Did the wolf gobble Granny up in this story? No, he shoved her in a closet, remember? So we are not going to include that in our summary. Now, like we just said, the wolf shoved Granny into a closet and told her to be quiet. That was definitely in our passage, so we need to include that. Here we go. We are down to 2 final details. Granny was excited her granddaughter, Little Red Riding Hood, was coming to visit her. Did that happen in our version? Yes, it did, so it should be kept in our summary. Did the wolf put on Granny's bonnet and climb into her bed? Now, again, I've heard that detail in other stories of Little Red Riding Hood, but this was not included in ours, and it should not be included in our summary. So we know here that Granny was excited that Little Red Riding Hood was coming to visit her, but then a wolf shoved Granny into the closet and told her to be quiet. And then Little Red Riding Hood and the young man with an axe scared the wolf off. So these were all the important details that should be included. Now, quickly, let's talk about what you're going to do on your own for me today. It's your turn. I'm giving you a big thumbs up. So I have 2 summaries here, okay? And in your Google form, which I'll show you here in just a moment, you are going to choose which summary is the best. And you need to explain why summary 1 or summary 2 is the better summary. One of these summaries will include additional information that does not need to be included. And the other summary will only tell us the key information that should be included. Let's see if you can find out which one it is. Okay. All right. So let me lower my screen here and I'm going to pull up that Google form so you can see it. So again, you can follow along here in pages 11 through 13. Make sure, please, you include your name. Okay. There's the selection again that we just read together. Type in a great title. What's a good title for this story here? Read both of your summaries. Choose which one you think is the best, and please explain why. And do this in complete sentences. Don't forget to hit submit when you're ready to send it our way. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed our selection as we worked on summarizing with our version of Little Red Riding Hood. Can't wait to see what you guys came up with. Thank you.